Hey guys, welcome back to more Reddit stories. What would you do if an arborist cut a tree and it then destroyed your property, causing over $300,000 in damages? This is exactly what happened to OP, but first let's dive into a petty revenge story. This one is titled, Lawn Care Company Purposely Ruined My Neighbor's Yard Over Payment Dispute. The title makes the situation look more serious than it actually is. The situation in question happened to my neighbor. All of the facts were either conveyed by the affected neighbor, another mutual neighbor who uses the same lawn care company, or witnessed by myself. BG, my neighbor, is frugal, bordering being a definition cheapskate, and has been beefing with his previous lawn care company. Said neighbor has been disputing the amount he owes them, somewhere between $200 and $400 over the services rendered. So he has owed this amount for 6 months, which was when said company last performed any services. The owner of the lawn care company, got fed up, so a week ago one of his employees sprayed weed killer in my neighbor's lawn to spell out, "Pay your bills." My neighbor is pissed, you can read the message from the street, and wants to file a police report. I think his ego is damaged more than anything else. If he didn't have a known history of being stingy, I would feel for him, but because of this, I think the situation is quite hilarious. ETA, the weed spray utilized was along the lines of Roundup, and the area in question should be able to be resought for less than $75 or with a bag of grass seed that costs $15. And the next one is titled, Arborist Destroys My Property, I Own His Digital Life. And this one is a tree law story posted on Petty Revenge by user ONG Techie. He starts like this. So I live in Florida and Hurricane Milton, 9th October, was devastating for my community. And by the way guys, let me know in the comments, have you ever witnessed a hurricane in real life? What happened? How was it? Let us know in the comments. Also, while you're at it, please don't forget to like the video if you enjoy my daily content. Thank you so much. So during the storm, my neighbor's tree went down into my yard, destroying a fence and landing on my pool enclosure. There was damage, but it was limited. These things happen, and that's why insurance exists, and I immediately submitted a claim. The community was without power, internet, and very limited cellular coverage in the following days, but work began restoring the community. My neighbor came over to my house on day 2 of the aftermath to apologize for the tree and inform me that they had hired a licensed and insured arborist. According to the neighbor, this arborist wanted to start on the top side of the tree, which was currently in my yard, so he would be out the following day to meet with me and give me a quote. I thought this was great, as it meant I didn't have to search for one myself. Well, the following day, the arborist met with me, gave me a price, and I told him, before he starts work, I would have to check with my insurance to make sure he was covered. Not pleased with the delay, he told me that he was gonna start on the neighbor's side anyway. Growing up on a farm having used chainsaws, I told him how bad of an idea this was. He shrugged and left my property, leaving his business card with the words injured, honest, creative, as well as what he lists as a license number. A few hours later, while my wife was outside cooking on a camp stove, day 3 of no power, the chainsaws begin. He makes a straight cut. I call him, yelling, saying, I can already see the pool enclosure beginning to buckle. He continues though. I tell my wife to get inside and begin recording on my phone. The moment he moves the trunk of the tree, the side of the tree in my yard catapults, the majority of the pool enclosure collapses, the retaining wall breaks, the in-ground pool cracks, the roof buckles, and I'm left with over $300,000 in damages to my backyard and home. Livid, I call him both to say, I told you so, and also to demand his insurance info. He says he will email it to me immediately, and it's available on his website, but with very limited internet that was impossible. I tell him to airdrop it to me, turn on my airdrop and wait, text him, refresh the airdrop time, call him, text him, nothing. He blocks my number. Something I noticed that evening when wireless data networks were not as stressed is that the website on his card is not even active. I also note that his LLC is expired, he doesn't have a license and therefore cannot have insurance. Apparently, he also got arrested in August of 2012 for beating his wife, driving away with the kid in the car, and then abandoning the kid in the car so that he could purchase some drugs. Suing him? No, he doesn't have the money to pay for any judgment, and I'm more interested in making sure no one else uses his services when the region is just trying to recover. So I buy his domain. I buy the domain of his first and last name, and I buy domains for variations of his business name. I buy the domain to his mother and father's real estate agents' names. I build a website in 2 hours that details my glowing review of his character, his work, his arrest, his lack of business credentials and insurance, and the damage he did to my house, which all 15 domains route to. Theoretically, he could get a new LLC, right? Well, I thought of that too. Aside from the entire rebrand effort you would have to do, branded trucks, shirts, business cards, etc., I wrote a script that crawls the state corporate registration listing using his name and automatically purchases the domains and variations of any new corporation names he registers or is an agent/officer of. Over the past 2 months, over 700 locals have visited the site. My website is the #1 result on Google if you search for his business, his name, or his parents. He has stopped posting on Facebook page and his phone line has been disconnected. Hopefully, he has switched career paths. As for legalities, I don't want money for the domains, they are not for sale, and were well worded to only speak to what occurred. And yeah guys, even though that's clever revenge, I hope that guy really never cuts any more trees ever again. I also hope that OP's insurance can help him out. If you would have been in that situation, let me know what you would have done. The next one is another petty revenge story, and it is titled "Neighbor Tried to Weaponize Town Code Enforcement." And it backfired. So my backyard neighbor has been difficult since the day I moved in. We closed on the house in late December, and by early spring she was demanding that I spend $10,000 to build a dry well to stop rainwater from flowing into her yard. My property sits higher than hers, and it has been this way for over 60 years. I refused, but offered to let her pay for it herself. She declined. A few weeks later, she called the town to complain about a floodlight on my property that was missing a cover. Code enforcement came by while we had people over, which made the whole situation just embarrassing. The officer just told us she is known for this and not to worry, just correct the issue, and no fines were issued. A week later, the inspector returned to re-inspect the light. We had a nice chat, everything was in order, and the case was closed. On Father's Day, we held a small surprise party for my father-in-law's 80th birthday and played music on a small Sonos speaker. Well, the following Friday, the same code enforcement officer called me to say my neighbor had complained again. He told me not to worry, but reminded me that if I ever held a party with music and I wanted to avoid drama, I should apply for a permit. In mid-July, I overheard my neighbor on the phone inviting people to a barbecue, giving the date and time. The following Monday, I went to town hall, applied for a permit for that exact date and time, and it was approved. On the day of her party, as her guests arrived, I turned on the loud old Greek chanting music from the early 1900s. My grandparents loved it and used to torture me and my cousins with it growing up, so I knew exactly how annoying it would sound blasting across the yard. Within minutes she ran over, banging on my door and ringing my doorbell repeatedly. The Ring doorbell footage of her tantrum is hilarious. I did not answer since I had taken out my wife and my neighbors to the left and right of my house for drinks. The next Monday, court enforcement received a complaint. The same officer handled it personally and informed her that a permit had been issued and nothing could be done. And the next one is a fantastic, satisfying story that is titled "Boss Looked Like a Fool," courtesy of me. I worked as a recruiter for a temp agency when I was young and fresh out of college. The manager of the agency was a total micromanager and wanted a say in absolutely everything. She micromanaged everyone so badly that she wanted to proofread any emails that any staff member was sending externally. She also wants to be CC'd on every single outgoing external mail. One day, one of my coworkers got a response back from an employer who gave some positive feedback about the email she wrote. Our manager made sure to reply all and take credit for the email and explained she oversees all outgoing emails. A few days later, in a staff meeting, she made a point of saying that she could get credit for any feedback the agency receives since she proofreads everything. The thing is, this manager was not well spoken or smart and not even a particularly good writer. I regularly spotted issues with her sentence structure and use of commas, but just didn't say anything. So one day she's proofreading one of my emails that would be going externally to an employer who pumped a lot of money into our agency. I was stating in the email that I thought so-and-so was a great fit for their vacant position based on so-and-so past experience. Miss Manager comes to my desk and tells me the email looks good except it should read past past experience. I told her that was incorrect and she told me I was wrong and she knows the difference between the two words. I was not in the mood to argue, so I wrote it as past experience and CC'd Miss Manager on the email. The employer writes me back and says, as an employer who hires people to work on printed literature, they wanted to correct me and let me know it's actually past experience, but that is where the malicious compliance kicks in. I hit reply all and thanked them for the feedback and explained my manager values all feedback, and since she proofreads all outgoing emails, she was the one who insisted on writing past experience. The next day, she announced she no longer wanted to proofread outgoing external mails and didn't want to be CC'd on them any further. Malicious compliance put that witch in her place. And the next one is another fantastic malicious compliance story, and it is titled Always Cross Your T's and Dot Your I's. So I used to work in the office of a few companies in the DOT trades. At one, I had a guy walking off-site with a coworker on a Friday night, and he slipped between the crane treads. He managed to gimp home on public transportation, but when he went to take his work boots off, he knew there was something seriously wrong. So I get the call Monday that he broke his leg and ankle. I write it all down, talk to the boss, and get the 411 for doing the workman's comp report, because there are huge fines if you don't report workplace accidents within a certain time frame, usually 24 hours. Now, we were subs, so not only did I have to report directly to the project workers' comp line, I had to report to the contractor's safety officer for their compliance as well. I get the safety officer on the phone. Hey, so I'm calling to report a workplace accident for Friday 3 days ago. Here's an overview of SO, GD it. We've gone over 100, I forgot the exact number, but it was more than 100 and less than 200 days without an accident. This is going to F up my bonus. Insert more muttering and swears. Well, SO, I understand how disappointing that must be, but poor worker has a broken leg. I think we need to keep our perspective here. SO, fine, whatever. SO barely took note of what I said and hung up pretty quickly. I write out my notes, talked with SO of big CO from this time to that, and outline the details of what we covered during our conversation. I go on and call the workman's comp line for the project and get a to-do list so the worker gets paid while out of commission. There's no problem about the time lag, as I called within hours of being informed. Phew. I then make a file, add all my notes, copies of the worksheets I make, and go on to the next fire to put out. Well, it was a fine thing I did all that, because a month or so later, big guy from big CO calls me up and tries to tell me that they got a huge fine because of us. And per the contract we were on the hook for something outrageous like 50k, I didn't even read my boss in at that point. Big guy, you mean the accident I reported on? Wait a moment, here's the file. On Monday within an hour of being told. I spoke with SO for 8 minutes and we covered these details. Oh, he did mention being upset to lose his safety bonus. Silence. Are you sure you want to pull out contracts about reporting standards? I would be happy to include my notes of all that I did that day and have followed up on. Big guy, no, that's fine, I've got it from my end. Well, BG, have a great rest of your day then. And the next one is titled, My girlfriend, 24 female of 3 months, never cuddles with me, 27 male, since she has always been a non-cuddler, and when we recently went on vacation she slept on the spare bed in the hotel room to avoid sleeping with me. So my girlfriend, let's call her Francesca, and I have been dating for an amazing 3 months so far, and she is absolutely amazing and caring and loving to me. She has only ever had one boyfriend before me, and she is my first post-high school girlfriend. It's only been a few months and my girlfriend sadly always finds a reason to not cuddle with me or even lay together for a long period of time when I try to. This really sucks because I've always been a huge cuddler and I guess I've just tried to overlook it when dating her. But honestly, it's hard. When I would ask if we can cuddle, it's always, I really don't like cuddles, they make me uncomfortable. When I would ask why she feels this way, she always avoids the question. For my birthday, I asked her if she could try to cuddle with me just once as a birthday gift, and she got really emotional and said it would make her really uncomfortable, so I felt bad and haven't asked her again. Honestly, if I ask again, it's gonna make her sad, and it makes me upset seeing her like that. I talked to my friend about this and he said that she might be scared that I would try to make a move on her, aka intercourse, and I mentioned that early on in the relationship, since me and Francesca are both virgins, we have decided that we want to wait for the right moment before having sex, which we both agreed should be at least 6 months into the relationship. Honestly, I'm not sure what to do here, and hopefully I'm not overreacting too much, but it bugs me to not be able to cuddle with my favorite girl. Sometimes she rejects holding hands too, which also sucks, and she will hold my hand for a minute or so and then let go. I've talked about this with her too, and she said it makes her feel bad when I make her feel like she's not good enough because she doesn't cuddle and hold my hand. Since I've typed too much already, I will keep the remainder of this short. Recently, she's been wanting to visit Hawaii for a long time, so I surprised her with a weekend vacation there. When we got to the hotel, she insisted on sleeping in the spare bed. She was not upset with me or anything and just decided she wanted to sleep alone. It hurt me, but I shouldn't have expected much anyways, considering the lack of cuddles. By the way, we've never slept with each other anyway since we live in different houses, so this was the first time I've ever attempted to sleep with her. Again, she is an awesome person who is loving in every way possible except cuddles. I have questioned my BO, but I don't believe it's that, considering she likes spending time with me otherwise. I never knew someone would hate cuddles, but she's the one, and I'm not sure what to do. Thanks in advance, y'all. And yeah, ripe stars, let me know what you think about this one in the comments. I'm really curious about your opinion. I would say it's certainly weird and not exactly normal for a relationship, and it might be a red flag in some way or another. Either way, let's see what the update says. So I read a lot of the advice and decided that I was gonna talk to her about a possible breakup. I know this makes me sound like a bad person, but honestly, I'm just a very touchy guy and express my affection by touching and being touched. Not being able to cuddle or hold hands or sleep next to my girlfriend was not gonna work out for me and just felt like a constant tease you would get from a long-distance relationship where you would think about holding and cuddling your girl or guy, but just don't end up doing it. Honestly, it was not gonna work out. I brought my girlfriend to my house after telling her that we had to chat. I started by telling her that I'm really sorry and like her very much, but I don't think that things will work out with our different cuddling preferences. She started crying and said she didn't want me to be turned off by this, but she actually loves cuddling, but has a sweating disorder, and when she cuddles she gets super sweaty, like I'm talking hella sweaty. She said her ex-boyfriend dumped her because of her sweating, and she said that's why she didn't want to cuddle with me. She said the same thing happens when she holds hands and she gets super sweaty. She said she was just afraid cuddling with me would make me leave her, like with her ex in the past. I felt bad that I've been giving her so much crap about it, and it was like an insecurity she had, and I told her that I don't really care if she sweats on me, it's all good. She laughed and said, "No, I actually sweat buckets." And I told her, "Can you sweat buckets on me?" She thought about it and then she said, "Okay, but don't break up with me over it if I sweat too much," in a joking voice. She laid beside me and we cuddled, and it felt so good to finally feel that with her. She actually managed to sweat so much that my shirt was pretty wet and the bedsheet was soaked, and I told her that I found it pretty cool. She said that she is so happy that someone appreciates cuddles and doesn't mind the sweating, and I was just so happy we were finally cuddling. I told her I didn't mind getting soaked cuddling and said at least now we can have kisses in the rain in bed, and she could not stop laughing. She asked if we could hold hands in bed to show me how sweaty her hands get, and again, my hands were wet as hell, which I didn't mind. She said, "If you ever need to wash your hands and there's no sink available, just hold my hands," which was really cute. It's been an amazing day and I'm just really happy things worked out. I told her that if she felt like things her ex said to her were hurting her and still making her feel insecure, she should really consider maybe seeing a therapist to help her feel more comfortable. She agreed and said that the fact that I like her sweating lifted a burden off her shoulders since she loves cuddles. Hopefully all goes well. And yeah, ripe stars, I gotta say, that is such a cute ending to the story, and I'm happy for OP and his girlfriend that they can finally cuddle with each other. That was seriously an unexpected ending. The next one is titled Local Revenge. Have you ever worked with someone who you know immediately is really something special? I've had a few opportunities to work with people like this, and my first thought is, I want to help this person get wherever it is they are going. So anyway, I worked for a non-profit for a while after retiring from the army. First day on the job, one of my peers in the leadership team pulled me aside and warned me about one of the guys on my team. "Jane, you will have to keep a close eye on Willie. He is low effort and takes a lot of hand-holding, rubs people the wrong way, and honestly, we are considering firing him." Me, thanks for the heads up, you never know what you're getting into at a new position, so I appreciate having the info. Damn, what have I walked into? But then I started working closely with Willie, and I made some discoveries. Sure, Willie was an introvert, kept to himself and could be a touch socially awkward, but he did indeed knew his job inside and out. He managed my department's logistic requirement precisely. We always had what we needed, but never too much excess static stock on hand. He found innovative ways to work with our community partners. He built new initiatives that capitalized on existing resources without incurring additional costs. A very important skill to have in a non-profit. He impressed donors so much that he actually convinced them to contribute significant sums in support of his additional duty department, and he was not even part of the fundraising team. Willie was quite the rock star, and I quickly realized how lucky I was to have him. Despite all this, the rest of the regional leadership team seemed to have it in for him. I found out later what it was that set them off. Willie had made an offhand comment to Jane about a year before I joined. Nothing sexist or bad, just a casual observation about a physical aspect of the office space that Jane interpreted poorly. She shared it with other leaders in the organization. They decided that the comment made their teeth itch, and it became a snowball that quickly rolled over Willie's reputation. The comment was relayed to me by a third party a few months after my arrival. I went and talked to Willie about it directly. I wanted to get his take. Our discussion revealed that it was totally innocuous, but misinterpretation had caused a misunderstanding and that damage was done. Rather than asking questions of Willie to clarify, they assumed a bunch of crap and ran with it. The stage was set, and Willie had realized that he didn't have a future at our location. Leadership had made up their minds about him and were actively blocking his options when they learned about any moves he was trying to make. I knew of at least 3 instances where they torpedoed his chances for interviews at other nearby locations in the organization, tripping him before he even got out of the gate. Willie knew that if he was going to advance, it was going to be somewhere else. He started looking for new work, and he eventually found something at another branch of our organization in a different state. He kept it very quiet, got the interview, and the other region was assessing the different candidates. The only other person in our region who knew about it was me, and that was only because I had spent months gaining Willie's trust. He knew he could confide in me and I would not crap on him. Around that time, Jane hit me up again about Willie. Jane: "I'm amazed by the changes in Willie since you came on board. You've done really a lot to mentor him and get him up to his full potential." Me: "I've done a lot of work where Willie is concerned. Some of it was helping him with professional development." But most of it has been focused on shifting the leadership team's perspective. He's really not that different from when I arrived, but just as you indicated, your perception of him has definitely changed. I have put a lot of effort into just letting him shine, giving him credit for the good things he does and staying out of his way. He didn't need micromanagement, he needed room to run. Every time he achieved something, I made a point of highlighting his success and the benefit it brought to our organization. The work I did was not on him, it was on you. Jane did not know what to answer. Back to Willie though, I asked him if he wanted me to go to bat for him in the hiring process with the other region. He said he would appreciate the help, so I called the manager at the other location and told her that I don't want to lose Willie, but all the reasons why I want him to stay here are the same reasons why you need him there. The problem is, if Willie stays here, the organization is gonna lose him because they won't promote him. I would rather have him stay with the organization in a different place than lose his commitment and skills entirely. She ended up hiring him. Of course, it was all him, skills, experience, interview. She knew she was getting someone amazing. My recommendation was just the icing on the cake, made it easier for her to decide what she already knew. Willie's taste of sweet revenge came when the leadership team had to eat crow as they congratulated him on his move. Willie knew this team of leaders had put a lot of effort into making sure he would never advance. Some of their congratulations were less than genuine, including Jane's. The cherry on top was that the pay and position at the new job was half a step above mine and the rest of the leadership team. And that's right, he moved on, he moved up, and he outranked us all. A most excellent FU to the folks who had stood in his way. And yeah, ripe stars, that is what I would call brilliant revenge. Good on Willie. Anyway, the next one is titled Credit Revenge. So I just got off the phone with my wife, and this story may not be revenge per se, but nevertheless it's about 3% revenge at least. Anyway, my wife is at Costco doing the weekly shopping. She is standing in line and the lady in front of her is having issues with her cards not working. She is frantically calling her husband, trying to get it fixed, trying over and over again to use it, but with no luck. She tells the cashier she will just put everything back. My wife, being the kind-hearted person she is, starts surveying the lady's items by looking at the card. At that moment, the lady chimes in, "What are you looking at?" So my wife, who's not very confrontational, immediately claps back and says, "Well, I was gonna help you out and buy the stuff for you, but not after the way you just talked to me." Apparently, this triggered the lady and she stormed off, leaving all the items on the belt and in the cart. Lesson here is maybe treat people with respect no matter the circumstances. You never know when you might need help. And yeah guys, because it was so awesome, let's read another brand new malicious compliance story. And by the way, let me know in the comments if you enjoy these malicious compliance stories. This one is titled Skirt to the Company Barbecue. So for context, this happened back in the early 90s. My husband was working for a company that had a male employee showing up for work regularly with obscenely short and tight shorts that barely covered the law. The law? So a memo went out informing employees of a new dress code. No shorts for men allowed, casual pants, skirts, dresses only. The day of the annual afternoon summer barbecue held on hot top out in the parking lot was around 90 Fahrenheit. The man enjoys his comfort on a hot day and has a fine sense of humor, so he cued the malicious compliance and wore my below-the-knee wrap skirt to work. His manager saw him in the morning and asked if he had anything else to wear with him. The answer of course was no. Trying not to laugh, he said, "If you ever effing do this to me again, I'm going to kill you." My husband just smirked and wore the skirt, complete with steel-toed safety boots, to the barbecue and was the hit of the party.